Don't trust us, trust the law. I know that many of you will have heard claims that you don't need to be compliant to source or deal package property. We know as members, all of you that are members of NAPSA, that you don't already believe these claims. But unfortunately, many of the sector still do. I don't want anyone to just simply take my word for it, or even the word of NAPSA, which is the recognised trade body, over anyone making claims that we got it wrong, that you don't have to be compliant. So what I want to do in this session is take you through where you can check, you can read, you can learn for free so that you can make an informed decision for yourself as to what the truth is, as to who's telling the truth, as to what obstacles are out there that you need to be aware of. So this morning, I want to cover a few things for you. And firstly, I want to cover the question around why property sourcing and deal packaging count as estate agency work under the Estate Agents Act 1979, and why registration with HMRC for anti-money laundering regulations isn't optional. You know, I accept that the definition as it stands in the Estate Agents Act 1979 is very open to interpretation, and that my version, what I think it states, is simply another opinion. But that opinion of mine is based on 13 years of study, of learning, and of working very closely with all the supervisory bodies for the sector. And I want to give you a case in point, an example of that has happened in the last few days. So some of you may know, a lot of you will not know, that the money laundering regulations have just had an update. And in the background, that HMRC's anti-money laundering team have been creating a whole new updated guidance for agents that they feel are or should be supervised for the Estate Agents Act and property transactions to use as a guide to help them meet those regulations. Now, that guidance has been many months in the creation, I don't doubt, and the guidance hasn't as yet been publicly announced as there. But we at NAPSA have a copy ahead of that launch. We worked with HMRC and gave them feedback on some of the initial drafts that they were making of the new and updated guidance. So the guidance is completely different from what it was. I think it's spaced out an awful lot better than it was, and it's an easier read than it was. So when it's launched, if you're sourcing your deal packaging, or you believe that you want to do, that would be the first document I will go to read, to have a think about your decision as to whether you're actually governed by the sector or not. So this document actually refers to agents that must register with HMRC for anti-money laundering supervision. And the guidance has been updated, and some of the statements within the list have been updated, changed, and some new ones added. So the guidance states you're legally acting as an estate agency business if you do any of the following. You deal with customers for the purposes of buying or selling freehold or leasehold properties in the UK, including commercial and agricultural properties. You send out property details and arrange viewings. You offer advice to potential sellers or buyers, and this includes making recommendations about a property. You act as an intermediary between buyers and sellers. You give customers for sale boards or put one outside their property with your contact details. You have a business that introduces buyers or investors to a property deal, also known as property sourcing, deal packaging, or investment brokering. You have a business that purchases property directly from the owner with a view to selling it on to a third party. This includes businesses that offer to buy property for a quick sale and developers that purchase or part exchange the purchaser's existing property. Property developers conducting estate agency business activities. Auctioneers that sell land or property. Relocation agents who provide property search and home finding service where they act on behalf of the buyer in the sale. Now think about those statements. This is from the document. It's from the guide. It's written by HMRC. It's not written by me. Do you agree with me listening to, and hopefully eventually you go on to read that list for yourself, that a significant number of those statements will cover property sourcing and or deal packaging business and services? In that document, which is split into several documents and huge document, but an interesting read for me anyway, there's also a whole new section in the guidance, one that's never been in there before. And the title of that section is Property Sourcing Agents, Deal Finders, Investment Brokers and Relocation Agents. But I'm only going to talk about that section, and the rest of the guidance and the updates with our NAPSA members in our private group tomorrow. But for now, let's move on with what we're covering today. What's the real cost of getting it wrong? So if you believe the easier story, that you don't have to have any of that in place. You don't need compliance. It's just someone trying to sell you another course completely unnecessarily. What could happen? Well, the real cost of getting it wrong is that HMRC are out there every year finding deal sources, deal packages, property sources, a lot of money. And over a period of time, 136 such agents were fined just over 1.1 million between them, including penalties running into tens of thousands of pounds. The highest I've seen was, I think it was about 62,000 pounds. So it's a fact. It's not my opinion. It's not just a statement from me. I am not trying to scaremonger. I'm here to help you not get a fine. It's a fact that HMRC have been fining more and more deal packages and sourcing agents year on year for either failing to register or failing to meet required standards. And these fines have closed some companies down because we check them and on Companies House they've just gone. And they may even have bankrupted some people in some cases because of the size of some of the fines. So think about that list that I stated. Think about what some of the potential consequences could be. Which would you rather have? What position would you rather be in? So how, as an investor, if you're an investor, do you verify any sourcer, including the ones telling you compliance doesn't matter until it does? Because we also work pro bono with investors who have lost large sums of cash to sourcing agents and try to support them through a complaint process. And there are 4 public registers that you can use. So you can argue all you like that they shouldn't have to be registered with a redress scheme. But my comment is, if they're looking to be professional and they do meet the Estate Agency Act, then by law they should be. And if they're caught not being, then they will be fined. So the redress scheme directories are the Property Ombudsman or Property Redress. And if you type in the Property Ombudsman or Property Redress, search register, it comes up and you can type in the name of the company or any registered number that they've given you and actually check that they are actually registered with either of them. They don't have to be registered with both, just either or. You can go to the ICO website, the Information Commissioner's Office website, and also search the register there and check to see they're registered for data privacy supervision, which they should be because they're holding personal data. You can go to HMRC's site or search HMRC AML Supervised Register Search, and it will bring up a link for you. You actually download a spreadsheet and then have to go in and search. It isn't a live register on the site. If they're a limited company, go to Companies House and search for them on there. Also, don't forget, we at NAPSA, our site, as investors, you can go and search on there completely free of charge, geographically and by strategy, for any of our approved members, and they're proven to meet the minimum standards as required if you meet the Estate Agents Act 1979, and they are checked and they are monitored, and for you to search, it is completely free. So the next point that I want to cover is, why does all of this protect investors' money and the reputation of the whole industry, not just your paperwork? Look, the industry, property sourcing, deal packaging, has a particularly poor reputation. It's known as being full of cowboys. It's known as being the Wild West. And in my opinion, for very good reason, because there are a lot of agents out there who take large fees up front that are non-refundable. And then when something goes wrong, all of a sudden it's not refundable. And in my opinion, it's not right just because you can get away with it, that if you go to court, if someone signed an agreement because you're a business, that you signed an agreement and you signed up to it, which means that also as investors, you really need to read those agreements and be really, really picky and really understand what's in them because you're not a consumer, you're a business. So as a sourcing agent, proving that you know what you're doing, proving that you're professional, that you set up professionally, will aid you in working with the right type of investors and creating long-term relationships, which is better for you in the long term anyway. And not being on the receiving end of countless numbers of complaints against you, which are draining to deal with. They must be, because it's a negative thing. And also, It's not just a matter of someone threatening to take you to the redress scheme or taking you to court. What about the damage that can be done across social media platforms? If they say that you shouldn't be worked with, that you're just a scammer, that you're a cowboy, that you don't know what you're doing. And if they splatter about your company and you personally all over social media platforms, is that really what you want? At least an understanding of the money laundering regulations and the significant risks that they pose in property transactions, not just to you as an agent, but also to the potential seller and buyer, will make you head and shoulders, at least, if not a country mile, above the noise that sadly reflects the rest of our sector. I think you need to ask yourself a question. What do you want your business to be known for? Making a quick buck and then disappearing, or professional and trustworthy service that any investor is happy to recommend to somebody else? So that's it for today. Why not find your favorite mug? I've got mine here with my coffee, and join me live each week. You can watch on YouTube, Facebook, or LinkedIn pages every Tuesday at 10 a.m. So bye for now, and hopefully I'll see you next week.